Well, ladies and gentlemen, I thought I would do something a little bit different here. This will be my reaction to the 2016 election. I might do a few different videos. This one's only 2 minutes long, but I do vividly remember this video coming out, CNN releasing it. This would have been, November 9th, so like a few days after the election, and the nostalgia is just amazing. The 2016 election cycle was the first cycle I ever followed in politics. The 2015 Republican debate at Quicken Loan, it was previously called Quicken Loans Arena. Now it's Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland. I still remember that. And just the entire thing, the primary season was just amazing in 2015 to 2016. And then, we obviously had the crazy election, which I'm going to put this into context. Obviously, 2024, it was a big success for all of us, for my channel, for everything. And we'd love to say, well, 2024, it was the greatest election ever. It was a crazy thing. But it really, Trump had, I would say, going into election night in 2024, 60, maybe 65% chance to win. And that's me being very fair. You could argue it was, depending on the betting, 65 to 70. I think Poly Market had at 67. There was no Poly Market back in 2016, but there were obviously betting odds. And going into election night, guys, the map was totally different. I believe Hillary was minus 700 to win. People remember the Huffington Post thing that gave her a 98.1% chance to win. I think 538, they were bragging because they gave Trump like a 33% chance or a 32% chance going into election night. That's how bad it was for Trump. You're talking about Florida being a Hillary lean. You're talking about Ohio being a Hillary lean. You're talking about the other Rust Belts outside of Ohio. Because remember, in 2016, the Rust Belts, it includes Ohio. Nowadays, we don't think of Ohio, even though it is Rust Belt, because it's not a swing state anymore. And this was, in 2016, it was crazy for Trump to win Ohio by 8 points. Nobody thought that was going to happen. Going into election night, people were predicting Hillary to win Ohio. But I'm going to go through, this is just like this is a minute 42 video. Relive Trump's stunning win in under 2 minutes. And you've got John King, you've got Wolf Blitzer, a little bit younger. You've got the old graphics package from CNN. They do have the best graphics package, CNN does. But I do remember watching, I mainly watched CNN. It was like my 32-inch flat screen TV. And I was watching CNN, but I was very young at the time. I think I might have just turned 16 years old. So to see this, and I vividly remember, if you look at the betting odds, Hillary opened, when you talk about the live odds on election night, Hillary was minus 700, and then we were getting results from Florida, and all the liberals thought she was going to win Florida. You win Florida, it's basically over, you would think, and she was like, she had went ahead in Florida, and Hillary went to minus 900 to win, which is like a massive, overwhelming 90% chance favorite. And I remember that, and we never had anything like that in 2024. 2024, it was just a constant barrage of good news for Trump. It started off good for Trump. The only tilt we saw in 2024 was the exit polls, where people were like, oh, democracy is the #1 issue, so it's a Hillary. But the exit polls are so ridiculous. The exit polls were very pro Hillary in 2016, and it obviously didn't matter. But going into election night in 2016, it was a huge seismic uphill battle for Trump. And it's crazy. So I'm going to react to this.
Foremost, it's finally here.
Going into this night, where do we stand?
This is where we stood coming into.
So they give Hillary 268, but all of the Rust Belt, they gave Trump Ohio. He might have been leading the polls in Ohio barely, but everyone thought Nevada, Arizona were going to go to Hillary. You've got Iowa possibly there. You've got Utah as a swing to Trump. Georgia at that point was not, we saw Georgia mature in 2020 and 2024 into an absolute swing state. 2016, it was still seen as a Trump lean. There's a lot of liberals, a lot of college people moving into the suburban areas of Georgia now. They had North Carolina as a pure Trump or a pure swing state as well. Florida as a pure swing state. Most people had Hillary over 300.
The night 268 to 204, so clearly an advantage for Secretary Clinton.
Take a look here. If Donald Trump wins tonight, no matter who they voted for, take a look at these numbers here. 21% say they'll be concerned. 37% say they'll be scared.
Yeah, that's over half of the That's why exit polls are so ridiculous. What is that? 58% of the electorate basically saying they didn't vote for Trump.
Scared.
This is what both candidates want. They want to be living there starting January 20th of next year. Florida been going back and forth, just changed again. It's only 11,000 vote lead just now. It changed.
Math on your feet. I like this.
The Empire State Building in New York City. Take a look at our running tally of the electoral vote. Anderson, this night is turning out to be a real nail-biter.
All along, the Trump campaign has been saying that Florida's a must-win for them. And I mean,
well, then at this point, you can see as the night starts to mature, to me, Florida was the real swing. Because there was a time where it was like 50% in, Hillary went ahead in Florida. You know, the way they count votes in Florida, it's a combination of and really back in 2016, the early vote was not a huge thing. But in Florida, it was a combination. They always do a combination of the early vote along with the day of dumps. And so at this point, 91% in, this is when you start saying, well, this, you know, based on how Florida counts, it's not the early vote, which is more skews to liberals. But although back in 2016, it really wasn't like that. 2020, it changed everything with all the liberals saying do the early vote, all the ballot harvesting, things like that. But you can see, you know, Trump with a lead of like 1.3% with 91% in a state like Florida, to where you're not going to get the crazy dumps of the early vote or like pro-Democrat dumps. You know, that race is pretty much over. Virginia, I mean, Trump was up in Virginia and competitive in Virginia, and he was extremely competitive in 2016 in Minnesota. He lost Minnesota by like a point. Everyone seems to forget that just because he won, you know, all the major swing states. But yeah, pretty crazy.
I mean,
they can't win without it.
Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida.
You know, I'm guessing that the people.
Yeah, Florida was a must. Well, they said Florida was a must win for Trump. Looking back on it, based on how many states he won, I don't think it turned out to be like that. But you know, going into election night, it was, well, Clinton has all these passed, and this is how it was in 2020 as well. 2024, it really shifted because Florida, with the whole COVID migration, everything like that, became Republican. Ohio became purely Republican. Going into the 2016 election night, Ohio was a swing state. Florida was a swing state. You were looking at Iowa possibly being a swing state.
In Brooklyn, I can see their fingers.
That's
probably.
the Hillary Clinton headquarters.
Yeah, fingers probably bleeding because there's no more nail to bite.
I wouldn't call anything encouraging for Hillary Clinton at the moment, to be honest with you, my friend.
Wolf, the scene here is so different than it was a few hours.
The glass ceiling, remember that? John Podesta?
Hours ago when people were happy and relaxed. I have been looking around the room at people who are stone-faced. Some of them have been crying.
This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against
the white lash.
Black president.
This is the people rising up saying it's
the white lash. Hillary's white. Hillary's extremely privileged. She's been in politics forever.
Time to listen to us. It's time to listen to us in Michigan and Wisconsin and work for the people.
Hillary Clinton has called Donald Trump to concede the race.
But it was even like the media landscape back in 2016. You could even tell, you know, versus where we are in 2025 now, and, you know, even the election in 2024, everything is just so much more aggressive now. I mean, you could even feel it, you know, when they bring the one Trump supporter on to talk. Again, I guess Van Jones did call it a white lash, but it just feels like even CNN back in 2016, there was more actual balance based on reporting on the news. You could argue that CNN and, you know, they like that Trump won because it upped their views significantly overall, rather versus a Hillary win. It was the betting odds for context. So Hillary closed 88-12, 88, basically 90-10 in terms of Hillary Clinton winning the 2016 election. You could argue that maybe with 2024, in terms of the popular vote, Trump winning that, it was a shock. But in general, I mean, 2016 was just a lapse more seismic in terms of the upset than 2024. I expected Trump to win in 2024. I didn't think it was going to be that easy to where he was going to be up the entire night in terms of the betting and the overall odds and things like that. But 2016 was a shock. And I've looked back at some of these videos, and it's just crazy the level of toxicity there is now in politics in 2020. You go back to 2024, 2025, even in 2020, especially like these more liberal networks, even when Trump won. Nowadays, it's just rabid, but even back 2015, 2016, they definitely treated Trump differently. But, I mean, it is remarkable, basically a 90-10 chance compared to what we were dealing with this past election, which was like 65-35 Trump, 90-10, and that it probably got up to like 95 once the results in Florida started coming in. Trump originally was leading in Florida, then Hillary flipped it with like 50% of the vote in, and then Trump flipped it back late, and that really kicked off the barrage. And then you get the Rust Belt closing and Trump winning Ohio by 8 points and easily winning Iowa. And yeah, so I mean, I would say most people probably thought Hillary was going to get well over 300 or around 300 electoral votes. And Trump ended up totally flipping the script, and it was just a seismic upset. But the best part, you could argue, it wasn't even the election or the debates between Hillary and, because remember, back in 2016 there was an actual format. They did 3 presidential debates. One of them was a town hall. And then with 2020, there were going to be 3 debates. Trump got COVID, wanted to have the debate, reschedule it. Biden didn't do it, so there was only 2 debates in 2020. Then in 2024, Biden says, no, let's have a really early debate. They have a debate in June before the conventions of either party. And obviously Biden performs terribly. They end up going with Kamala. Kamala and Trump have one debate. Then Trump says, well, I don't have to debate again. But in 2016, there was still a structure. There was a ton of Republican debates. I guess there were in 2023, 2024, in the primary process within the Republican Party as well. But it just felt different in the 20s, especially considering, you know, if you go back to that primary, and maybe I'll do another video just talking about the primary, the Republican primary, with Kasich and Cruz and Trump, and originally Jeb was leading, and Ben Carson kind of had like a hot spell of like a month where he was actually above Trump in terms of the overall polling numbers. I remember that, or he like right around Trump. It was just funny. But I mean, there was like a debate every month or once every 3 weeks. I don't think it's nostalgia. I think that's legitimately how it was. And Trump with with Rubio, and Rubio saying he had small hands, and then the stuff with Ted Cruz, and he kept saying Ted Cruz was lying because of some like robocall in the Iowa caucus. It's just funny times. But I mean, back in 2015, 2016, that was still an establishment party. There was no MAGA. Now, Trump just was coming onto the scene, but the Republicans, the establishment Republicans, were a lot dumber than establishment Democrats, because establishment Democrats still control their party. You know, they said that Hillary was going to win in 2016. I still think she probably would have won. I know that's something that's like a revisionist history. People say, well, no, Bernie Sanders would have won. Certainly Bernie Sanders got no news coverage at all back in 2015, 2016, like crazy little. They made it to where Hillary for sure was going to win. And, you know, there was some infighting with Biden and Obama, and he's like, no, it's Hillary's turn. Because Biden, I mean, you would think serving 2 terms under Obama, it would be his time next, but it wasn't. They gave it to Hillary because Hillary lost to Obama in the 2008 Democratic primaries. But it was just a crazy time, and just the dynamic of the Republican Party not galvanizing behind one establishment candidate. You had the vote splitting, which enabled Trump to go ahead, and it got to the point to where Trump, it was over 50%. And so you're not going to beat that. Remember what happened in 2024. They're like, well, force DeSantis to drop out. Everyone galvanized behind Nikki Haley. It doesn't matter. Trump controls the party. Trump's got like 70% of the support within the party. The establishment is the minority now. Back in 2016, the establishment wasn't the minority, at least at the start when Trump ran, but he was at like 33%, and then it's all the other establishment people, the neocons, down at like 12%, 10%, 8%, and they didn't drop out quick enough and galvanize behind someone. I mean, that's what happened in 2020 when, you know, Bernie was trying to get it again, and it was all the other establishment Democrats. They said, you all need to get out and endorse Biden so he can beat, so we can bring the vote to one person, rather than splitting it up between everyone. That gives Bernie a higher chance of winning. So that's really the dynamic that happened there. But it really is remarkable how this, like the 2016 was just such a seismic upset. Now, but even like the context of the popular vote, I mean, you look at 2024, Trump had like maybe like a 37-40% chance to win the popular vote. It wasn't like Trump had a 10% chance to win the popular vote. This is saying Trump had like a 10% chance to win the Electoral College in 2016. And you could argue, at least the Huffington Post and some other things, you know, it was even worse than that. So the context of 2016 was just such a crazy upset. And, I've been looking back and some of this stuff, it just felt like there was a lot less toxicity in politics. And I think that's more so the more we get connected to the internet, you have these inorganic relationships with people online, and this is just the evolution of it to where people get more and more angry, and there's just this huge Trump hate now that we're seeing and it really manifested in 2024. I mean, they tried killing him, then they endorsed it. They said they wish he died, they would celebrate it. And so that's just how bad it's gotten with the liberal hate of Trump and just the ravenous people and the vicious. And now, they go out and they destroy all these Teslas. They firebomb the dealerships. They say it's a heroic act. It's really, really bad behavior. But that's just where we're at now with the Democratic Party. I mean, Trump's like broken this party. And I mean, they're like wiping their asses on Teslas and everything. That's what these people do. And they say they're very highly educated. They're the party of education. And they're on cameras, the side cameras on the Tesla, just like wiping feces on it. That's what they do. But either way, guys, it was a crazy, crazy thing to look back on. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.